Michael, welcome back to the show. Last week, we talked a lot about what you look for when investing in a founder. We talked more on the outside traits of an entrepreneur. Today, we're going to jump more into the actual entrepreneur themselves. You talked a lot about the philosophies that you go through and you have. So I wanted to ask, what business philosophies have given you the most outsized returns?
Um, I think that, like anything in life, business is no different. And so when you come up with a business model and you start working on that, the most important piece to me is why are you doing it, which we talked
Yeah.
last time about. And what are you looking for in the end result? Because I'll tell you that when I sit and talk with people and they spend 14 seconds telling me the idea, and then the rest of the time they're telling me we're selling it for $400 million, I'm missing everything in the middle, which is the most important part, the journey. And so for me, when I'm talking to people who really understand how to drive a business, and they're talking about what they envision the culture of the organization being, or really like what they're trying to evolve into from the current state of their company, and why they're doing it, and they're talking about all these different pieces of the business that they're passionate about, not about what's in it for them in the end. And so what I've learned is that if you are focused on the right things, I have found that success becomes a byproduct of fulfilling your passion.
Hmm.
If you're focused on the success, it just doesn't really happen. And so when I'm looking at entrepreneurs and they're literally tripping over themselves because they're so excited about what they're doing or what they're about to do, that's the first trait that I'm looking for. Because if you're totally focused on the wrong stuff, the good things will never, ever happen. And what made it simplest for me is uh, um, having really sharpened my teeth in the food and beverage industry, and that being really an extreme focus, for me. If I was a server today, instead of me showing up to my shift saying, I want to shove as much money into my pocket as I possibly can, versus showing up and saying, you know what, I want to create as many raving fans as possible. And if I can make this restaurant successful, it's impossible for it to be successful without me not coming along for the ride. Or I'd be looking at my busboy, my server assistant, whatever you want to call it, and say, you know what? I'm going to focus on making this person wealthy. They share a percentage of my tips, and without me having to invest a dollar of my own money under this person's flag who's paying the bills, I'm going to create my own little business. And I'm going to create raving fans, and they're going to come back and ask for me and sit in my section. And so if the focus was how much money can I put in my pocket, I'd be giving you a fake smile, and really just trying to get gratuity out of you. Versus, I'm going to try to help make this person's life better. I'm going to be a great team member and help everybody win and drag everyone across the finish line. And the way I'm going to do that is by making my customers feel so good that they can't wait to come back and bring their friends. That's the type of person that forget the check. It's easy to write a check. It doesn't take a lot of time and you can make more money. But when I want to invest my most important resource, my time, which I don't know how much of it I have, and once I spend it, it's gone, that's the type of human being that I want to invest that time into. Those who are focused on creating great experiences for others and having an awesome business.
Is this idea of we're going to use the restaurant in your example of when you are the server, making sure that you have the best experience for the guests as opposed to trying to make the most out of tips? Is this what you talk about, the entrepreneurial mindset?
The entrepreneurial mindset, first of all, the entrepreneurial mindset, you have to be willing to take unusual risks. It's something that we talked about in the last episode, right? And I told you that my definition of being an entrepreneur is going from winning the lotto to wanting to jump off the roof to winning the lotto again. And that's the first 3 minutes of your day every day. That's not for everybody. And I'm not just saying like you don't have the gene. I'm just saying like, even if you do, you got to really think about if that's the path for you and if that's how you want to spend your time, because there is no trick that I can share with anybody that replaces the hard work. And so you have to have all these things. You have to have the DNA. But the majority of entrepreneurs that are successful are the ones who are willing to put in the work. And sometimes that means 20 hours a day, 7 days a week. Look at Elon Musk. You know, a lot of people got a lot of comments about Elon Musk's. How many jobs has Elon Musk created? How many weddings for his employees has he funded? How many children have been able to eat because of the jobs he created? The man used to, he may do, he doesn't check in with me, so I don't know if he did it yesterday, but dude used to sleep at night in his business. Man, we've all been there, we've all done that. And there is no supplement. I don't care. AI, all of these different things that are coming. If you're not willing to put in the hard work, you'll never be successful as an entrepreneur, and you'll never be successful in anything else in life. Because I've never not invested in a stock and then complained about the return I got on the investment. It's the same way I think about people. I don't care what's on your
Mm,
resume. Good for you. You graduated from Harvard. Anybody on the planet that I'm hiring to be a member of my team at any company, I have to invest in them. I have to give them inspiration and drive and hope. I have to teach them all the things that I messed up. And so I believe as an entrepreneur and the entrepreneurial mindset, it boils down to this one saying of mine. If you're not willing to invest in yourself, why should anybody else?
mm,
And so that first step as an entrepreneur, I mean, my first step as an entrepreneur was quitting my job a couple days before my first of my 4 children were born. My next move, it was 11 months down the road when I had a deal go sideways and I was down to my last $5,000 and I was about to be homeless. I had a decision of what path I was going to take. And in the end, that leap of faith and that willingness to truly believe in yourself. We're not operating on people's children. And failing in a business or in not going the way you imagined it, no one's dying usually. And so the reality is for me, and I think for a lot of entrepreneurs, even though I don't know if they can put their finger on it, but what I'm about to say, I believe will resonate with most of them, as long as they're scrappy hustlers like me. I think that the critical piece to being an entrepreneur is that I didn't want to look back on my last breath and wonder what if. And to me, that
mm,
was a whole lot scarier than failing. And by the way, a business failing doesn't necessarily mean that a human failed. There was a lot of people who, coming out of COVID, just guess what? Global pandemic wasn't written into their business model. I didn't even know the word global pandemic. It certainly wasn't written into any of mine. Now we know. But I have companies that I work with now, companies that I've worked with in the past that have been in situations that they can't control. And guess what? In this world, we're not really in control of much, but we are in control of our own time. And how we invest that time is critical to the entrepreneurial mindset. And so if you're becoming an entrepreneur because you're watching people who have already gone through hell and back again, and you're looking at the flip side of it, you really need to look in the mirror and double check and make sure that you got what it takes, because you have to take pleasure. Because I'll tell you, after it's all done and the wire hits your bank account, the next day you wake up and you're like, okay, here we are. And it doesn't change your life. But that journey, that path, the people that you meet, the people that you get to work with, the people that you get to learn from, all of those things are things that you encounter along the way that make the journey special. That is the most important piece of the entrepreneurial journey, is the ability to not focus on what has already happened and not focus on what you can't control down the road, but to actually be present in the experience and truly enjoying the journey. Because if you're not enjoying the journey, but you're just in it for what the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow, man, you're wasting your most important resource. Because as far as I know, no one counts your shit when you're dead. And so that entrepreneurial mindset needs to first understand, why are we here and what am I wanting to do with this life? It's not about making money. And I think that all ties back to the question of, what are you looking for in an entrepreneur? And my first question when I talk to people is, tell me your story. How'd you grow up? Where'd you grow up? Tell me about your parents. I want to know all of this stuff because I want to know who you are inside as a human, not this idea that you came up with, that you put on a piece of paper and then you made up a bunch of numbers to tell me all of the crazy things you're going to be able to accomplish. I want to understand the journey that brought you to this entrepreneurial place so that I can determine if you're the type of person that should be going down this road. And there's times where I haven't invested in businesses that I thought were good, because in the end, even though I thought I would get a good return on my money, I thought that I would be helping somebody make a decision that I thought would be harmful to their family or to themselves. And so in the end, I want to be known for what I was as a person. And those instances and those stories where the human being and their life and their happiness was significantly more important than writing a check and getting a return, because I know what they are about to encounter and what they are about to experience because I've done it. And I think, being a creator myself, we invest in builders, we invest in creators, right? And that's what we look for as individuals who are able to provide capital for people to do these things. But in the end of the day, I'm the same person who grew up very similar to you, and it's critical to not ever forget where you came from. And so to me, sometimes writing that check, I can foreshadow being a part of something that really took somebody's life onto the wrong tracks. And that's a big no-no to why I invest and what I want to do in this world while I'm here.
Michael, you mentioned that you've been in tough situations with your business before. You said before your first kid was born, you're down to less $5,000. How can we learn to bet on ourselves when the stakes are at the highest?
Ah, um, as investors, I think that's something that we need to learn as well, not just entrepreneurs. I have now only because I'm old, have I seen a few things. And you know how many times I have seen a business that is literally has killed themselves to get to the peak of the mountain. They're literally about to get over the hump, have explosive growth, and get a return on the investment. And so many times I have seen their cap table, their investors, their supporters. That's when they want to throw in the towel. That's what that's when their tolerance ends or their appetite changes. It's crazy. I'm watching that right now. I'm literally watching that right now with a business that's about to explode. And their current investors are not providing the capital that they need. It's like it's like running 98% of a marathon and quitting. In the last part of the race, and you're like, what in the hell is going on here? It is not just entrepreneurs who need to learn to bet on themselves, but if you're really an investor, there's a humanistic piece to it. Like, as an investor, you are sometimes, especially in early stage, pre-revenue venture or early stage startups, like, you can have an impact on these people's lives and their families one way or the other. And to me, when you make a commitment, you're in for the journey. And I'm not saying throwing good money at bad. Obviously, there's times where we need to say, okay, mercy, I've had enough. I've had enough. But I'm seeing it so often where people write checks and then they think they don't have to support along the way. That comes from the tech companies. I don't invest in tech. Uh, um, I don't own other things that can impact their success one way or the other, nor do I provide much value other than the check that I write. I'm too old. I can turn on my iPhone, return some emails, and all that good shit. But what am I going to say to all of these geniuses? However, I am not the type of business person that believes in spending money like drunken sailors. I'm not the type of person that believes in the more money you lose, the higher the valuation you can get. And a lot of these tech investors, like, they write a check and then they expect that's it. Go cross the finish line. Like, that may be the way that it happens sometimes in tech. But when you start investing in other businesses where it is known to everybody on the planet, apparently, but you, that you're going to have to continue to support along the way, as an investor, you should really make that clear to the principals, that if you are going to write a check and that it's a one-time check, because those investors should know, those entrepreneurs should know that, so that they are picking the right partners. And I'll tell you, some of the best deals I've ever done in my life are the deals that I say no to. And some of the best investors that I've had in my businesses, or some of the best checks, were the ones that I didn't take. And so it's not only about raising money and getting the capital that you need, but you better make sure that you're taking the checks from the right people, and that you're very clear as an investor what your expectation is. Because I'm not only as an investor, but an entrepreneur, I'm finding more and more, I'm working with a lot of early stage companies right now, which is awesome. It's amazing because it's the enthusiasm and excitement of entrepreneurs at that stage is infectious. It's like a drug. And at the same time, I know that not only can I help them, I can save them a lot of money. I can share my mistakes with them. I'm seeing over and over and over a lot of these folks getting into situations where they, as the entrepreneur, were not super clear what they wanted. They weren't clear themselves at the time in some situations, but they also weren't clear to the investors of what kind of investor they wanted. They weren't clear to their boards of what kind of board members and what kind of support that they needed. And in this stage of an organization, like, having boards, having investors, having advisors, that's the most critical thing that you can have in your business. Like, if you think you're the smartest person and you don't need help, uh, luckily for me, being as dumb as I am, I always wanted to be the dumbest one in the room. And you know what? That
Sure.
model works out very, very well. And so I think that investors need to be transparent. And some investors are like, I'm going to write this check. Don't ever call me. Make sure you get your K1 to me on time. And if shit hits the fan, call me before it hits the fan. Not when it's an emergency and I'm going to punch you in your face before I can like actually digest what you're saying to me. And on the flip side, entrepreneurs really, really need to think about who they need money from. Because did you know that raising money for a business is very different than raising money for a nonprofit? I'm trying to raise money for a nonprofit right now, and after having raised a shit ton of money in the world of for-profit, I'm finding that it's harder in the nonprofit world. You know, like who wants warm fuzzies and to save people's lives today? But on the other side of it, in the for-profit world, like entrepreneurs forget that there's a lot of people out there that literally have to invest in shit and deploy capital. That's their job, and it's a big problem if they don't. And they go into it like they're asking someone to write a check for a donation for a non-for-profit. That's not how this shit works. You're an entrepreneur. You're going to do something that makes people a certain type of internal rate of return, or you're going to strive to do that. And then there's people out there that need their money to create more money. And then there's other people out there that can't write checks for less than, $50 million. And that's a real thing where it's so cumbersome that, and there's so much wealth that things don't really move the needle. And you know what? I look at those organizations and they miss out on all the fun shit. They should have a very small percentage, uh, uh, not just from a strategic standpoint of creating wealth, but also for our responsibility in giving back. No different than when we write checks to charitable organizations because we want to make the world better for like our children, our grandchildren when we're not here. It's the same thing. Sometimes you make an investment because people deserve an opportunity. And in the end, you know, you can't write a check for less than 50 million, but yes, you really can. And is it the same amount of work to write a check for 5 as it is for 50? Yes, but it's also probably not as much risk. And, the reality is that may be the spark of light, that writing that check that literally changes somebody's entire universe, or that could change the entire universe. And so we really have a great responsibility. I don't believe that my money is mine, just to be clear. Not everybody feels that way. I feel like the money that I have was sent to me for whatever reason, and it's not mine. I'm the mailman. My job is to get it to the right people. And sometimes that's
Hmm.
charitable organizations, sometimes that's investing. But I see all of these folks that, and and some partners and other people that I've met and other people that I've done business with, and they're holding it and they're holding it and they're holding it. What the hell are your children? There's so much money in some of these situations that you just can't even understand it. And in the meantime, I'm looking at it going, can you write a check for 100 grand to help these people save somebody's life? Like, okay, you got so much money that you can write checks and you can invest 500,000, 500 million, 50 million, but at the same time, don't we, as business people and entrepreneurs and investors, we have a responsibility to then use that wealth to make the world better, and also for the next generation of people that are looking to make something of their life. I want to see more entrepreneurs. I want to see more people saying, I don't have to spend $500,000, and come out of college with insane debt so that I can go get a job for $87,000 a year. And maybe by the time I have a great grandchild, I can pay off college. College isn't for everybody. We've done a disservice. Everyone has to get their master's degree now. No, they don't. And so, as someone who has been blessed by other people, there's people that did for me what I'm saying. There's people who, when I was doing this for the first time, wrote a check to some, dumb young person for whatever reason. They gave me an opportunity to make a better life for my family. They gave me an opportunity to make a better life for my children and my community and the people that work for my organizations, the jobs I was able to create. And now I want to be able to do the same for others. And so I think that the world of investment, the world of raising money, the world of entrepreneurship, we have to understand that there's different lenses in which we can look through these things. And so in the end, sometimes I'm writing checks because I believe somebody deserves an opportunity to make a better life for themselves, just like the people who gave me that chance. And I'll forever be grateful for anybody who's ever written a check to me to invest in something, whether it was $100 million or $1. The weight of that, in that somebody believed in me, in that they were willing to put money behind something that I believed in and believed that I could accomplish something, believed that what I was saying I was going to do. The faith and the belief in me, in a lot of cases, was so much more meaningful than the actual check as I look back on it now. And there were people who didn't write the check that punched me in the face that taught me a lot of things too. And some that didn't punch me in the face and gently taught me along the way. And so I think that in the end, whether you're an entrepreneur or whether you're an investor, like I said earlier, you got to remember where you came from. And you have to make sure that you're not only looking through things from one lens. And I think that that's the social impact of how we make the world, how we make business, how we make all of these things a little bit better. And it's the children, it's the young people, it's the young, amazing human beings like yourself that's going to shape the future for our children, for our grandchildren, and for generations to come. And so I'm very thrilled that I get to take the good that I learned. I take the good that I learned in working as an employee, right? And I apply that to my businesses. And now as an investor, and as an entrepreneur, I'm able to take the lessons, good and bad. And sometimes if you're smart enough, the most important lessons are what not to do. And I'm able to pass that along to others. So I am really thrilled that I didn't give up when I was about to lose my house. But in the end, like, I'm just thrilled for the opportunity that I have now to impact even more people in their families, and that's truly a blessing.
Michael, that is gold. That is everything you just said is unbelievable. And I find your lens of you appreciating through the hard times how meaningful the position you are in right now. I find that extremely inspirational. You talked a lot about reversing risk, being able to help others go through the lessons you wish you had somebody else tell you, right? You mentioned you want to give inspiration, drive, and hope to people just so they couldn't make the same mistakes. If you could theoretically build an entrepreneur, right? And you wanted to have them have the highest chance of success. I know for you, success is different than somebody else. We're going to say high success from a virtue standpoint in which they believe in what they're doing and they want to get high financial success as well. What are some of the things you would instill in them? What are some of the lessons you would teach them that you wish you had when you were starting your business?
I find a lot of people have never actually done the work. Some of the greatest lessons I've learned was as an employee and having a deep understanding of business. I think there is a misconception when you come out of school that you've now like learned all this stuff. And not in all cases, but in a lot of cases, what I find is that, okay, people are coming out of school. Now they know a little bit about a lot of shit.
Sure.
And then they got to go to the real learning, right? We touched on this a little bit earlier when I was talking about college. Oh man, I got in trouble one time. I was speaking at a culinary school. I got invited to speak, and I had this speech all written out, and it's very, very good speech, right? And I looked out at these kids. I'm like, oh fuck. I'm like, you know, and I'm looking at all of these beautiful young faces, and I looked out and I said, you know what? I think you all got scammed. In that you've spent $150,000, and the reality is that I suggest you all go get a job as a dishwasher. And it's the God's honest truth, like, and not in all industries, but these kids were spending a fortune to come out of culinary school or food and beverage management school, whatever they were learning there. And then the reality is they could have been working somewhere, getting paid the whole time and getting the best education that they ever could have. And they're going to still have to go and do that now. Uh, um, I didn't get invited to speak there ever again. As you can imagine, the school wasn't like super thrilled with what I had to say, but um, it's the God's honest truth. Like there's no building a perfect entrepreneur. There isn't. There's building good human beings. Like there's I don't know how to teach someone to have a high threshold for nausea. Like there's certain things
I
in being an
understand that.
entrepreneur, like, are you a little bit crazy? Do you like insane risks? If someone told you it was you versus the world and you had a 3% chance, would you respond with, so you're saying I got a good chance? Like at the end of the day, like, there's so many people that don't know how to work hard. They don't want to work hard. They're not willing to put in the effort. Like that knocks out a whole lot of the nincompoops. And so when you look at the amount of people that fail, right? Like typically they're out over their skis. They came up with an idea that really can't scale and makes no sense. They were undercapitalized. They don't have the expertise. And more important than all of those, they weren't willing to put in the work. There is no, can you build a perfect entrepreneur? Different tool for different job, different kinds of entrepreneurs, different kind of businesses. For me, I wanted to walk, before I could run. Like my first business wasn't, let's put together $100 million fund and go do, and I see a lot of that too. And again, people want to skip all the shit and get to the end of the race. I'm at the end of the race. And guess what? I would like to go back to like somewhere around the 3/4 part of the journey and enjoy that once again, because it's lonely at the top. And listen, I am 46 years old. I'm 46 in an 86-year-old body, but when I envisioned my life, like retiring and this and that and the other, all my friends were with me. Guess what? Like, I don't have a whole ton of friends that are retired. And so when I was envisioning my buddies and I, playing golf in Miami Beach and we're old, it didn't work out that way. And so it's not as fun. You gotta really focus on the journey, and whatever path that is in life. Your podcast is about entrepreneurship, but we can just talk about being a human being. You gotta really not rush and not be so focused on, like we said, the future and what's behind, because you have to be present or you're missing out on living. And so I haven't died. So I can't tell you, for sure, what happens after you die. I have my beliefs, and I don't know anyone. I've checked with a few people. I don't know anyone personally that has died and come back. And so I will say this: I'm going to use my time the best that I possibly can. And I hope everybody else also does that in their life. And so, as a human being, what's most important is not shoving a triangle through a circle and saying, I'm an entrepreneur, I'm a doctor. I know you got to decide that shit, right? In like high school now, I'm a high school junior. Well, what is your career path? I don't know. I was going to go, get candy after school with my friends and play video games. I don't know what my career path is. Like, the path should be live, become a good person, experience life, eat great food, travel, make beautiful memories with people, the important things in life, and do what your heart tells you to do. And so, for all of the folks that are listening to your podcast, like that want to be an entrepreneur, the question's why? You want to be an entrepreneur because you saw somebody on TikTok that was an entrepreneur and they drive a Bugatti? Or because entrepreneur sounds really freaking cool, like to put after your name, or at a party when people are like, what do you do for, I'm an entrepreneur. Like, you got to figure out why you're here in this world. And you got to figure out what is it that you want to leave behind when you're gone. Because I'm telling you, everything goes by in an instant. And all of the old sayings that you hear that are so stupid and you've heard them a million times, they're all true. The early bird gets the worm, all that shit, it is all true. And so I would begin with the end in mind of what is it that I want to do with my time in this world, and not look at it from the other direction. And again, as I call it, shove the triangle through the circle. So it is not for everybody. And guess what? You can have multiple paths. A job, creating something. You're not stuck with that the rest of your life. And nor does that define your career, what you do for a living. It doesn't define you as a human being. And so whether you are a crusher and you're King Kong and you've had great success in business, or you're listening to this podcast as your entrepreneurial journey is coming to an end because you've run out of cash, because your business is insolvent. All of the people out there that are going through those kind of difficulties and dealing with those kind of emotions, your business doesn't define you. And the success of a business doesn't mean that you were successful as an entrepreneur. So many people don't have it within them to take what is in their brain and create it. And so, to entrepreneurs out there that are listening, to the businesses, entrepreneurs that I'm working with, it is not a failure of yours as a human being if your business does not succeed. Just like you are not a great human being because you made a lot of money in business. We all may be able to name a couple people that are really horrendous human beings that we wouldn't want as our best friend or family member that have all made $1 bazillion. That is not what defines us as human beings. So begin with the end in mind.
Michael, last question for you here. You talked a lot about appreciating the journey. This is something you said last week when we talked as well. For you to say that, appreciate the journey while you're in it, you wish that you can go back to when you were three-fourths of the way there, right? In retrospect, you say, I wish I could just appreciate the journey a little bit more. For those people that might be going through very tough times in their business or maybe even in life, how can they learn to appreciate the journey when they can't guarantee that the end will result in something that they can look back upon in a good light?
Um, your last question, tough to answer in under 3 hours. But I will give you, from a philosophical standpoint, my ideas on that. We don't know how much time we have. Every day we've been programmed as human beings. We go to sleep at night. Well, maybe not you. You're in college still. You sometimes some nights maybe you don't. Um, but as human beings, we were programmed to sleep. My belief of that, and I'm not saying mine is right, wrong, indifferent, but my belief in that is it gives us the opportunity to have a reset where you open your eyes, you are grateful that you've been given the opportunity for another day. Whoever,
Mhm.
whatever has enough faith in you to give you the opportunity to do better. And that can be the first day of your new life. You can create whatever you want with that. It shouldn't be when, God forbid, you get sick. God forbid you are going through a difficult life cycle in your life where you realize what truly matters and what is important in this world. It shouldn't take something like that for people to truly value life and the opportunity to
Mm.
live each and every day. I've been through a lot of shit in my life. And guess what? I have survived the worst day, the worst days of my life. I have lived through it all. They weren't able to kill me. It wasn't able to kill me. And here I am. And so, for those of you who are struggling, for those of you who are having a difficult time in your life, whether it's your business, it's something personal, it's health, it's addiction, whatever you are dealing with in your world, it can get better. Things will get better. And things change. The good times become bad times. The bad times become good times. In this world, there is a time for every season. There's a time for life. There's a time for death. And without that balance, without knowing darkness, without knowing struggle, how can we know light and success and joy? And so it's critically important as the darkness creeps in to understand that the light gets rid of all of the darkness and that everything changes. And so for those of you who are struggling with whatever you're struggling in your life, you have to count your blessings and you have to focus on the great things. And if you believe it, that it will be good, it will be good. And so that's my advice. Never give up. There's always hope. And every day is a new day and can be the first day in your new life.
Wow, I love that. I've never even thought about the idea of being able to, because I think a lot of times we only appreciate what we have when things are at the worst. So with your philosophy of being able to appreciate things every day, even in the small moments, you're able to, when those things do get bad, go back to the things that you originally were thankful for. That's amazing. I love that so much. Michael, I'm gonna let you go. Where can people find you at?
Connect with me on LinkedIn. I'm very active on LinkedIn. Follow me on Instagram, a caffeine doctor. And please, if you're struggling, if you need help, if you feel that I can be helpful, reach out, right? You're the testament to that.
Yes.
The best part of what I get to do with my time is to meet amazing people. And guess what? I know that times are different. I know that there's people are struggling. There is so much good and so much beauty in this world There are so many blessings and helpers and wonderful, amazing things happening, but you got to be wanting to focus on the good instead of the bad. We should all wake up tomorrow morning focusing on the good, being thankful for all of our blessings, and making sure that above all else, we're doing everything we can to make this world better and repairing it. And we do that each and every day through our work. And just like you can be a great blessing to so many. So don't give up. Keep powering through. And like I said, if you got a 2% chance, so you saying we got a chance. And that is the mindset you have to have in life, because life isn't easy. But don't forget the balance. Without hard times, we wouldn't understand the blessings of the good times, and everything needs balance.
Ladies and gentlemen, Michael Schultz. Michael, thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Thank you.